Imagine a young boy growing up in a small town in Virginia during the 1920s and 1930s, a place where the world seemed simple, yet the shadow of war was creeping closer with every passing year. This boy would grow up to become one of the most extraordinary soldiers in American history, not because he carried a gun or wore a uniform with pride, but because he carried courage, faith, and unwavering commitment to save lives, even at the risk of his own. That boy's name was Desmond Thomas Doss. Desmond was born on February 7, 1919, in Lynchburg, Virginia, into a deeply religious family. His father, a strict Seventh-day Adventist, and his mother, a devoted homemaker, raised Desmond with strong moral values, teaching him from a young age the importance of honesty, kindness, and living by faith. But life was not always easy for Desmond. He was small for his age and often considered physically weak compared to the other boys in his neighborhood. Despite this, there was something in him that set him apart, a quiet determination and a deep sense of purpose that even he did not fully understand at the time. From his earliest days, Desmond felt a connection to the teachings of his church. The Seventh-day Adventist faith emphasized peace, service to others, and the sanctity of human life. Desmond took these lessons to heart, developing a personal commitment that would define his life. He vowed never to carry a weapon or take a human life, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Many would later call this decision foolish, even impossible, in a world headed toward global conflict. But for Desmond, it was simply who he was. Life in Lynchburg was shaped by hard work and family responsibility. Desmond's father often clashed with him over his gentle nature and his refusal to participate in physical confrontations. Young Desmond was sensitive and compassionate, qualities that made him an easy target for bullies. Yet, he also displayed moments of quiet bravery that hinted at the man he would one day become. He learned early on that courage was not measured by fists or weapons, but by the strength of one's convictions and the willingness to stand for what is right, even when others doubted you. As Desmond grew older, the world outside Lynchburg was changing rapidly. The 1930s were a time of great turmoil, marked by the Great Depression and the rise of conflicts overseas. While most boys his age dreamed of adventure, Desmond's dreams were rooted in service. He admired soldiers, not for their weapons or victories, but for their dedication protecting others. This admiration would soon collide with his religious beliefs in a way that would challenge him more than anything he had faced before. When World War II erupted, the call to serve America echoed across the nation. Millions of young men enlisted or were drafted to fight overseas, facing the harsh realities of battle, danger, and death. Desmond knew he wanted to serve his country, but he also knew he could never carry a gun. This decision placed him at odds with military officials, his peers, and even his own family. Many told him that his principles were noble but impractical. How could a soldier survive on the front lines without a weapon? How could someone protect his comrades without striking at the enemy? Despite the skepticism, Desmond Doss was resolute. He made a personal decision that would define his entire military career. He would serve as a medic, saving lives rather than taking them. He enlisted in the Army in 1942, fully aware of the challenges he would face. From the beginning, his journey was filled with obstacles. Fellow soldiers mocked him, calling him a coward, a pacifist, and even a fanatic. Drill instructors questioned his dedication and loyalty. Yet, Desmond remained steadfast, refusing to compromise his principles. His early days in basic training were grueling, both physically and emotionally. Desmond was small and not as strong as his fellow recruits. The physical demands of military life were intense, and he struggled to keep up, but his determination was unmatched. He worked tirelessly, proving that courage was not about brute strength, but about resilience, heart, and commitment. Slowly, some of his fellow soldiers began to notice something remarkable. Despite his size and his refusal to carry a weapon, Desmond faced every challenge with unwavering resolve. He was earning respect, not through intimidation, but through integrity and bravery. Even in the face of ridicule, Desmond's faith remained unshaken. He spent hours reading the Bible, praying, and meditating on the principles that guided his life. His commitment to God and to the sanctity of life gave him strength far beyond what most could imagine. He was not only preparing to survive the physical challenges of war, but also to confront the moral and emotional trials that would come with it. By the end of his basic training, Desmond Doss had already made a mark. He had survived the harshest physical tests, endured relentless taunts, and remained true to his beliefs. His story was beginning to spread, earning him both admiration and skepticism. To some, he was a miracle, a man who refused to fight, yet was willing to risk everything for the lives of others. To others, he was an enigma, someone whose courage could only be proven on the battlefield itself. As Doss prepared to deploy to the Pacific Theater, he faced a world that demanded compromise and conformity. The Japanese campaign in the Pacific promised unimaginable danger, including brutal jungle warfare, disease, and the constant threat of death. Yet, Desmond was undeterred. He believed that bravery was not measured by the number of enemies defeated, but by the lives saved. This principle would guide him through some of the most harrowing experiences any soldier could face, defining not only his military career, but his entire legacy. Desmond Doss's early life teaches us an essential lesson. Courage is rooted in conviction. True bravery does not require a weapon, a uniform, or recognition. It requires a steadfast heart, a willingness to stand alone if necessary, and an unshakable commitment to doing what is right. The boy from Lynchburg, Virginia, was about to face a world filled with fear, violence, and uncertainty, but he would face it on his own terms, guided by faith, principle, and extraordinary sense of duty. And so begins the story of Desmond Doss, a man who would become a hero not by taking lives, but by saving them one soldier at a time. In the next part, we will explore the battles he faced, the impossible missions he undertook, and the moments of heroism that would earn him the Medal of Honor, cementing his place in history as one of America's greatest soldiers. After enlisting in the Army in 1942, Desmond Doss's journey truly began. The small-town boy from Lynchburg, Virginia, had stepped into a world unlike anything he had ever known, a world of strict discipline, grueling physical demands, and constant testing of both courage and character. Basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, was designed to transform ordinary men into soldiers. For most, this meant learning to carry weapons, fire at targets, and follow orders without question. For Desmond, it would be a test of a different kind, a test of faith, principle, and sheer determination. From day one, Desmond's refusal to carry a weapon set him apart. To his fellow recruits and instructors, it seemed inconceivable. How can a soldier serve without a gun? They asked. Many labeled him a coward, a fanatic, or worse. Desmond faced ridicule daily. Soldiers would taunt him during drills, demanding to know why he wouldn't obey the rules. Drill sergeants yelled, pushed, and threatened him, trying to break his spirit. Yet, through it all, Desmond remained calm and resolute. He knew that his path was not about proving his strength in conventional ways. It was about standing firm in his beliefs while finding ways to contribute to his unit and serve his country. Training was physically grueling, even for soldiers who carried weapons. For Desmond, who was smaller and less physically imposing than many of his peers, the challenges were magnified. He struggled through obstacle courses, long marches, and exhausting drills. At times, the pain and exhaustion seemed unbearable, but what Desmond lacked in size and brute strength, he made up for with determination, resourcefulness, and an unbreakable will. He worked harder than anyone else, often staying after training hours to practice first aid, survival skills, and techniques to help his fellow soldiers. Slowly, his peers began to notice something remarkable. This pacifist, this unarmed soldier, had courage and resilience that far exceeded that of many trained killers. One of the most infamous challenges Desmond faced during basic training was a rifle test. It was a standard part of military training, required for all soldiers. Refusing to touch a weapon made him a target for both ridicule and disciplinary action. Instructors demanded he comply, some even threatening court-martial. Yet Desmond calmly explained his convictions. He would not carry a gun, he said, but he would serve his country in any other way he could. His explanation confused many and angered others, but also revealed a strength that could not be measured in muscle or aggression. Desmond's courage wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, firm, and unshakable. Over time, his dedication began to earn respect. Some soldiers who had mocked him realized that his refusal to fight did not make him weak. On the contrary, it required immense inner strength to stand by his convictions while enduring constant pressure. Even drill instructors, initially frustrated by his stance, began to acknowledge that Desmond was extraordinary. He followed every order that did not violate his principles, excelled in medical training, and proved himself capable of performing under extreme stress. By the time training ended, Desmond Doss was no longer viewed as an oddity. He was seen as someone with extraordinary courage, a man willing to face scorn, pain, and danger for the sake of his beliefs. After completing basic training, Desmond was assigned as a combat medic. His role would be to provide medical aid on the battlefield, often put himself directly in harm's way to save others. While he carried no weapon, he carried a medical kit, a stretcher, and a heart full of determination. He knew that his mission would be perilous. Medics in war zones face the same threats as any soldier: bullets, grenades, artillery, and the chaos of combat. The only difference was that Desmond would not return fire. Instead, he would run toward danger, not away from it, risking his life to save his fellow soldiers. Desmond's first experiences in training exercises simulated the harsh conditions of the battlefield. He learned how to navigate rugged terrain, treat injuries under fire, and remain composed amidst chaos. He practiced carrying the wounded to safety, often running through mock gunfire and explosions, all while staying true to his principles. These exercises prepared him for the unimaginable challenges he would soon face in the Pacific Theater, particularly during one of the bloodiest campaigns of World War II, the Battle of Okinawa. Throughout this period, Desmond's character began to inspire those around him. Fellow soldiers started to see that bravery could take many forms. Courage was not limited to firing a weapon or taking lives. It could also mean saving lives in the face of unimaginable danger. Some who had once mocked him began to admire his resolve, while others remained skeptical. But for Desmond, approval or recognition was never the goal. His focus was on a higher calling: to serve God, protect life, and fulfill his duty to his comrades in the most honorable way possible. In addition to physical and emotional preparation, Desmond faced internal struggles. He wrestled with fear, doubt, and the reality that his principles would be tested in life-or-death situations. But each night, he prayed for strength and guidance. He meditated on his purpose, drawing courage from his faith. This inner resilience would become his greatest weapon, a force that allowed him to remain calm, focused, and determined, even when others faltered. By the time Desmond Doss shipped out to the Pacific in 1944, he had transformed from a small-town boy into a soldier with extraordinary resolve. He was ready to face the horrors of combat, not with gun in his hands, but with compassion, courage, and an unwavering commitment to save lives. His journey had taught him that true heroism was not measured by how many enemies one could defeat, but by how many lives one could protect. And soon, the world would witness that heroism on a scale that few could imagine. Desmond Doss's early military experiences remind us that courage takes many forms. It is not always loud, visible, or conventional. Sometimes it is quiet, steadfast, and principled, a refusal to compromise one's beliefs, even under extreme pressure. As he prepared to enter the crucible of war, Desmond carried with him the lessons of his youth, the strength of his faith, and the knowledge that one man's conviction could make an extraordinary difference. And so, the stage was set. Desmond Doss was about to enter the fiercest battles of World War II, facing unimaginable danger and witnessing the horrors of war firsthand. What he would accomplish in the coming days and months would not only defy expectations, but also redefine what it truly means to be a hero. The island of Okinawa, Japan, 1945. The air was thick with the smell of smoke, salt, and fear. For the thousands of soldiers deployed to this remote Pacific island, every day was a fight for survival. Explosions shook the earth, bullets whizzed past, and the cries of wounded men echoed across the jagged cliffs. This was the crucible of war, and it was here that Desmond Doss, the unarmed medic, will begin a story that would inspire generations. Desmond's unit, the 1st Battalion, 307th Infantry, 77th Infantry Division, had been tasked with taking a strategically vital ridge known as Hacksaw Ridge. The Japanese defenders were entrenched, well-armed, and prepared to fight to the last man. For most soldiers, the climb would be deadly. For Desmond, it was a test of faith, courage, and conviction like no other. Armed with nothing but his medical kit, courage, and a determination to save lives, he ascended the steep cliffs under a relentless barrage of gunfire and artillery shells. The first wave of soldiers moved up the ridge, and chaos erupted immediately. Bullets tore through the air, grenades exploded nearby, and men screamed in terror and pain. Amidst this hellish scene, Desmond Doss did the unthinkable. While others were focused on survival or returning fire, he focused on the wounded. He crawled across open ground, exposing himself to enemy fire, to reach men who had been shot, burned, or crushed by falling debris. His small frame moved with incredible speed and precision, a lifeline amidst the carnage. One of Desmond's first acts of heroism at Okinawa involved a soldier named Private First Class Robert Johnson, who had been hit in the chest and left in no man's land. Others assumed he was beyond saving, but Doss refused to leave him behind. Ignoring the screams, the bullets, and the explosions, he dragged Johnson to safety, applying first aid and stabilizing him for evacuation. This was only the beginning. Over the next several hours, Desmond would do what seemed impossible. He would save dozens of soldiers, carrying them one by one down the cliff, all while under constant enemy fire. What made Desmond's action so extraordinary was not only the danger he faced, but the physical and emotional demands. He often lowered himself over the cliff by rope, supporting the weight of wounded men who could barely move, all while dodging bullets and shrapnel. The wounded were heavy, sometimes unconscious, and often bleeding profusely. Each trip up the ridge required immense strength, courage, and stamina. And yet, Desmond never wavered. He moved with a single-minded purpose. No soldier would be left behind, no matter the risk. The soldiers who witnessed his actions were initially stunned. Many had doubted him, mocked him, or assumed his refusal to carry a weapon made him weak. Now they watched in awe as this unarmed medic repeatedly risked his life to save theirs. His heroism began to ripple through the unit. Fear was replaced with inspiration. Desperation gave way to hope. Desmond's courage became a rallying point, a symbol that even in the darkest moments, one man could make an incredible difference. During the first days of the battle, Desmond is estimated to have saved over 75 soldiers from certain death, often performing multiple rescues in a single day. He treated wounds, calmed panicked men, and carried the injured down treacherous terrain while bullets and shells flew past him. His dedication was relentless. Some soldiers called him crazy, others called him a saint, but everyone knew he was extraordinary. One particularly harrowing moment came when an artillery shell exploded nearby, injuring several soldiers and pinning them under debris. Desmond rushed forward, ignoring the risk to himself, and pulled each man to safety. He worked tirelessly, often without rest, driven by the principle that every life mattered. His faith was his anchor, guiding him through situations where most would have frozen in fear or fled for safety. In that moment, Desmond Doss was not just a medic. He was a force of hope, a beacon of courage in a landscape of death. The Battle of Okinawa was grueling, lasting over 80 days, and the fighting on Hacksaw Ridge was particularly brutal. Despite the constant threat of death, Desmond continued his mission. Soldiers recall hearing him calmly instruct the wounded, praying with them, and assuring them that help was coming. He never carried a weapon, but he carried something far more powerful, an unshakable spirit and a determination to save lives at all costs. By the end of his first week on Okinawa, the stories of Desmond's heroism had spread throughout his unit. Even the most hardened soldiers could not ignore the courage of the unarmed medic who risked everything for others. His actions challenged their understanding of bravery, honor, and sacrifice. For many, witnessing Desmond Doss in action was a transformative experience, a lesson in what it truly means to be a hero. Desmond's story at Okinawa reminds us that heroism is not defined by violence or aggression. It is defined by courage, compassion, and the willingness to stand firm in one's convictions, even under most extreme conditions. In the chaos of war, When most would focus on survival or retaliation, Desmond focused on saving lives. His actions proved that one person's moral courage could inspire countless others, turning fear into hope and despair into determination. As Part 3 closes, we see Desmond Doss as more than just a soldier or medic. He is a symbol of the extraordinary power of faith, principle, and humanity. The impossible becomes possible when courage meets conviction. And in the midst of the bloodiest battles of World War II, Desmond Doss demonstrated that true heroism is measured not by the lives one takes, but by the lives one saves. In the next part, we will explore the most legendary moments of Desmond Doss's heroism on Hacksaw Ridge, the life-threatening rescues that would earn him the Medal of Honor, and how his story would become a lasting testament to courage and faith. The Battle of Okinawa had reached its most brutal stage. The Japanese defenders held the steep cliffs of Hacksaw Ridge with deadly precision. Artillery shells ripped through the earth, machine guns rattled incessantly, and smoke and fire blanketed the battlefield. It was a place where most soldiers feared to tread, and for many, a single step meant certain death. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, Desmond Doss moved with unwavering determination, armed with nothing but his medical kit courage and an unbreakable resolve to save lives. On May 5, 1945, the fighting reached a critical point. The 77th Infantry Division faced the daunting task of capturing the ridge, a strategic position essential for the Allied advance. Soldiers fell in droves, pinned down by enemy fire. Many believed that survival was impossible. But Desmond had made a vow that no wounded comrade would be left behind. His mission was clear: reach the injured, provide aid, and carry them to safety, no matter the cost. What Desmond did next would become legendary. Under relentless machine gun fire and exploding shells, he lowered himself down the cliff repeatedly, dragging wounded soldiers up to the edge and then over the steep terrain to safety. His small frame belied an extraordinary strength and stamina. Many soldiers required multiple trips. Some were severely injured, unable to move on their own. Desmond's determination never wavered. For 12 continuous hours, he risked his life over and over again, prioritizing the lives of his comrades above his own safety. One soldier, Private First Class William Coward, was shot and left in a ravine too heavy for others to move. Desmond tied a rope around his body, descended the cliff, and with painstaking effort, hoisted Coward to safety. Each soldier he rescued added to the incredible tally, but fatigue, pain, and the ever-present threat of death never slowed him. Bloodied, exhausted, and facing constant enemy fire, Desmond continued, driven by his faith and unwavering commitment to save lives. The accounts from soldiers who witnessed these rescues are staggering. Some recall that bullets hit the cliffside mere inches from Desmond as he worked, yet he never flinched. Explosions shook the ground beneath him, sending rocks and debris flying, but he pressed on. One wounded man later said, "I thought I was done for. Then I felt him lift me, like an angel in the midst of hell." These words capture the essence of Desmond's courage, selfless, unrelenting, and almost superhuman in its execution. By the end of that day, Desmond Doss had personally rescued over 70 wounded soldiers, lowering them one by one down the cliff to safety. Each trip demanded incredible physical effort and mental fortitude. Each life he saved was a testament to his unyielding belief that every soldier mattered, no matter how small the chance of survival. His actions not only saved lives, they inspired a unit, lifted morale, and demonstrated that heroism could take forms beyond combat and violence. But the cost was great. Desmond himself was injured multiple times during these rescues. Shrapnel tore through his body, and exhaustion threatened to overtake him. Yet, even when seriously wounded, he refused evacuation. He stayed on the ridge, continuing to aid the injured until every man he could reach was safe. His determination was fueled by a combination of faith, principle, and sheer human compassion, a rare combination that transformed a terrifying battlefield into a stage for unparalleled heroism. Desmond's heroics at Hacksaw Ridge drew attention, not just from his fellow soldiers, but also from higher command. His actions defied military norms and expectations, yet they exemplified the highest ideals of service and courage. Unlike many soldiers who relied on weapons to conquer the enemy, Desmond relied on faith, skill, and compassion. proving that true bravery could be measured in the lives saved rather than the lives taken. The impact of his actions resonated far beyond the battlefield. Soldiers who survived because of Desmond carried the memory of his courage with them, sharing the story with friends, family, and the wider military community. His unwavering commitment became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that even in the darkest moments of war, integrity and selflessness could shine brighter than fear or violence. For many, Desmond Doss became the living embodiment of the question, what does it truly mean to be a hero? By the conclusion of the battle, Desmond's extraordinary courage had earned him the admiration of his peers and superiors alike. Despite initial skepticism and ridicule, he emerged as a figure of legend. His actions on Hacksaw Ridge would eventually earn him the Medal of Honor, making him the first conscientious objector in American history to receive the nation's highest military award. But beyond medals and accolades, the true legacy of Desmond Doss lies in the countless lives he saved and the enduring inspiration his story provides. Hacksaw Ridge, once a place of fear and death, became a symbol of hope and courage because of one man's unwavering dedication to principle. Desmond Doss's heroism reminds us that true greatness is not always measured by power or aggression. It is measured by integrity, compassion, and the courage to stand firm in the face of overwhelming odds. In a world consumed by conflict, he showed that one person's commitment to doing what is right can transform despair into life, fear into hope, and ordinary moments into extraordinary acts of heroism. As Part 4 closes, we see Desmond Doss not just as a soldier or medic, but as a living testament to the power of faith, courage, and selflessness. The cliffside rescues, the relentless danger, and the lives he saved on Hacksaw Ridge will forever define him as one of America's most remarkable heroes. In the final part, we will explore the aftermath of the battle, the recognition of his heroism, and the enduring legacy of Desmond Doss, showing how one man's courage continues to inspire generations. The guns finally fell silent on Okinawa, leaving behind a landscape scarred by fire, blood, and heroism. The cliffs of Hacksaw Ridge had tested every soldier who climbed them, but none had demonstrated courage quite like Desmond Doss. The unarmed medic, who had risked his life time and again to save his fellow soldiers, emerged from the chaos not as a casualty, but as a legend, a man whose bravery would forever redefine the meaning of heroism. After the battle, Desmond returned to base, exhausted, bloodied, and physically battered. Shrapnel had ripped through his body, and every muscle ached from the relentless work of carrying wounded soldiers down the ridge. Yet, despite the pain and the trauma he had witnessed, he carried no bitterness, no desire for revenge. His purpose had always been clear: to serve, to heal, and to uphold his principles. And in doing so, he had saved over 75 men, an extraordinary feat by any measure. Word of his heroism quickly spread throughout the Army. Commanders, initially skeptical of the unarmed soldier, were stunned by his actions. Reports detailed how Doss had repeatedly exposed himself to enemy fire, descended sheer cliffs, and rescued men who others had deemed beyond help. His courage, resilience, and unwavering moral conviction could not be ignored. Desmond Doss had become a symbol, not only of bravery, but of profound power of conscience and faith in action. In 1945, Desmond Doss was awarded the Medal of Honor, the United States' highest military decoration, for his heroic actions on Hacksaw Ridge. The ceremony was deeply moving. Soldiers, officers, and civilians gathered to honor a man who had risked everything to save others. President Harry S. Truman personally presented Doss with the medal, recognizing that his courage had not only saved lives, but had also inspired the entire nation. Desmond, ever humble, accepted the honor quietly, never seeking fame or recognition. For him, the real reward was knowing that the soldiers he saved had a chance to return home, to live, and to continue their own stories. Beyond the medal, Desmond's story began to inspire countless others. His life challenged conventional notions of bravery. He demonstrated that heroism does not require a weapon, that courage can coexist with compassion, and that one person's commitment to principle can change the course of events in unimaginable ways. For many soldiers and civilians alike, Desmond Doss became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, integrity and humanity could shine brighter than fear and violence. After the war, Desmond returned to civilian life, carrying with him the memories of comrades, the horrors of battle, and the quiet pride of having stayed true to his beliefs. He continued to live a life defined by service, humility, and faith. His experiences shaped his approach to life, teaching him and others that true courage is measured not by the battles one fights, but by the lives one touches and the principles one upholds. Desmond's story has since been immortalized in books, documentaries, and the major motion picture Hacksaw Ridge, which brought his incredible heroism to audiences around the world. Through these portrayals, the lessons of his life continue to inspire new generations. Children learn about the power of conscience. Soldiers learn about courage under fire. And ordinary people everywhere are reminded that even in a world filled with conflict, one person can make an extraordinary difference. The legacy of Desmond Doss also serves as a powerful reminder of the broader sacrifices made by all American soldiers. Wars are not fought only with weapons and strategy. They are fought with courage, honor, and humanity. Medics, nurses, and those who serve selflessly behind the lines play a critical role in saving lives and preserving hope. Desmond's story elevates these contributions, showing that valor comes in many forms, and that sometimes the greatest heroism is saving life rather than taking it. Even decades after the war, the memory of Desmond Doss endures. Veterans recall his bravery with reverence. Military historians study his actions to understand the extraordinary moral and physical courage required in combat. Ordinary citizens draw inspiration from his example, finding in his story a blueprint for facing their own challenges with integrity and determination. In every retelling, the central truth remains the same. Desmond Doss's courage was not just a wartime act. It was a testament to the enduring power of faith, principle, and humanity. As we reflect on the life and legacy of Desmond Doss, it becomes clear why he is remembered as one of America's greatest heroes. He showed that true greatness is not defined by force or aggression, but by the willingness to act with compassion and courage, even in the most dangerous and daunting circumstances. He demonstrated that one man's moral conviction could inspire an army, save countless lives, and leave a lasting imprint on history. The story of Desmond Doss is not just a story of war. It is a story of humanity at its finest. It reminds us that heroism comes in many forms, and that courage is measured not by the battles we win with weapons, but by the lives we save with heart, principle, and unwavering determination. From the hills of Lynchburg, Virginia, to the cliffs of Hacksaw Ridge, Desmond's journey is a beacon of inspiration, a shining example of what it truly means to be a great American. And so, as we close the final chapter of this incredible story, we honor not only the heroism of Desmond Doss, but also the values he embodied: faith, courage, selflessness, and unwavering integrity. His life teaches us that every act of bravery, every decision to stand firm in our principles, and every effort to save and protect others leaves an indelible mark on the world. Desmond Doss may have been just one man, but through his extraordinary courage, he showed us all what it truly means to be a hero and a great American.